So like where you Shabbos you were there?
No, we found out like Friday 5 p.m. So she went today. We went there today. We spent the day, and then my mother-in-law flew out today. So my wife went to stay with her dad.
So your wife stayed there. Wow. Wow. Okay, there's supposed to be more people coming on, so I'm gonna wait till they come.
Yeah, of course. We're still early.
I know you're early. I was wondering what's going on. Why there's no noise in the background or anything.
All right.
Where is it?
You.
Okay. Where's my, what the heck? So I can't find my, ugh. Okay. Bear with me, boys. Okay, now we're better. Hold on. Hold on. I don't see it here. Okay. Can you see me? Yes. Do you see? Somebody talk to me. Tell me if you see the. Okay, much better. Okay. Are we ready? Good evening, one and all. So we're going to discuss, this week's parsha is a fascinating parsha. There's a lot of stuff going on. In general, Bamidbar is like that. It's full of stories and things. It's, it's about the history of the Jews. It's what happened to the Bnei Yisrael when they were sitting in the desert for 40 years. It's pretty much what Bamidbar is all about. Every parsha is another story, another episode in the development of the Jewish people as a nation. And of course, it's a powerful lesson for us, each part of it. So this week's parsha has a lot of stuff going on. So in this week's parsha, the Jews rebel. In fact, because they rebelled, well, one time Yisrael left the Jewish people in the desert, and then the Jews started complaining. So to separate those two things, you put the Vayibin Tzaya in the middle. And there's two upside down nuns that separate between the bad that Yisrael left and the complaining afterwards. It's inserted in the middle. And it says there's an opinion that it's like a separate sefer. So there's the beginning of Midbar is one sefer. I even say it's another sefer, and afterwards another sefer. It makes 7 Torahs. The Rebbe spoke about it. Whoops. The Rebbe, hello? The Rebbe spoke about it once in Fabrengen about how that works. So we're going to focus on, here we go. We're going to focus on when the Jews start complaining, Moshe Rabbeinu gets really upset. And he basically says to Hashem, what am I supposed to do? Why am I responsible for this? Why do I have to carry these people? Did I conceive them? Do I have to nurse them? Where do I have meat to give to all the people? I can't do this alone. And if you're going to do this to me, then you might as well take my life. Pretty extreme stuff. Hashem says to Moshe, fine, Esli Shem Ish, gather 70 people from the Ziknei Yisrael. Asher Yedaita came the Ziknei Ha'am, the Shaita V'lakachta Eitzam El Oyel Moed V'Yisat Hashem Imach. Take them and gather together to the Oyel Moed. Viradti, and I'll come down, Vidibarti, and I'll speak. Imcha with you, Sham, ve'atzalti min haruach asher alecha, and I will increase the spirit that is upon you. We'll see where that came from. Atzalti. V'samti aleim, I'll put it upon them. V'nasu itcha, and they'll carry with you. V'masa the burden of the nation. V'lo yisisa atach levadecha, you won't carry it yourself. Now let's look at Rashi. V'yiradati, I'll go down. Zu achames, you read this Aksubis. This is one of the 10 times Hashem says, I'll go down. Like the first time we see by light, Hashem says to Avram, I'm going to go down and see what's going on. Hakatzaksa, if the crying out from Zlayim is true. Okay, so the idea of Vayer Hashem al Har Sinai, the idea that Hashem comes down. I'll speak with you, not with the others. But this Rashi says, Kitargum, the time it says, Va'arbi. Arbi comes to where Harba will increase. The nobles, I mean, they were on an increased level. V'samti aleihem, I'll put it upon them. So I'm going to increase what you have, and I'm going to take it and give it to them. Lema Moshe daima b'isah shah. What was Moshe Rabbeinu comparable at that moment? Liner, to a light, a candle. Shemunach al gab menorah, that's on top of a menorah. Akol madlikin mimenu, and everybody lights from it. Ve'ein oirei chaser klum, and the light doesn't miss anything. What is Moshe compared to at that time? Like a candle on a menorah, everybody lights from it, but it doesn't miss anything from its own light. So what basically is going to happen over here? Hashem is going to tell Moshe to pick 70 elders, and then Hashem is going to make them to be the assistants to Moshe Rabbeinu, and it's going to take from the light, from this godliness and spirituality, it's on Moshe Rabbeinu and give it to them. So Rashi says, what is Moshe compared to at that time? To a candle that's sitting on a menorah, that everybody lights from it, and its light doesn't miss anything. Okay? Now in this Rashi, you can have 3 questions that are glaring at you. He says, what is Moshe compared to that time? To a light that's on a menorah. What does light on a menorah mean? So it's like a candle. Like what's the idea of here? The question is, here's the question. If Hashem takes from the spirit of Moshe, the holiness of Moshe, and shares it with 70 more people, will Moshe miss anything from it? That's the question. That's our discussion for the night. When you light a torch from another torch, does the original torch lose any light? And of course, the simple answer is no, of course not. So Rashi says, it's like a candle. You light one candle from another candle. If you have a candle lit and you light a second candle, the first candle doesn't lose any of its light. So the question is, why does it have to be on a menorah? And the second question is, Hakol madlik menu? What does that mean? Everybody takes light from it? We're talking about 70 people. We're talking about everybody. Ve'ein erichasi klum. Okay. So that's the question. Now let's look further, because Rashi doesn't get this out of nowhere. Where did Rashi get it from? It tells you right here. It's from the Sifri. Now we're going to look at the Bamidbar Rabbah, the Medrash. Does the Medrash say the same thing? The Sifri is the compilation of commentary on Chumash Bamidbar. Then there's another Medrash called Bamidbar Rabbah, Medrash Rabbah and Bamidbar. So let's see what it says here. Oops, we got to find it. The Medrash is going to be similar but different. And that's all we get. It's always a question, why the small words, which seem like, oh, they seem so inconsequential, but then they end up having a very powerful and important, a very important meaning to them. So where is that? It's further on. Let's find it. Okay. So now I'll read through the Medrash quickly. I'll read the. I'll tell you. Gather 70 people. When Hashem said to Moshe, gather 70 people, Moshe said, what am I going to do? If I've been 5 from every tribe, I'm going to have 70. How many going to have? There won't be 70, because 5 times 10 is 50, and then you have 5 times 2 is 60. And it's Shishim, only 60. And if I bring 6, I'm going to have, and if I bring 6 from 2 tribes, and 5 from 5, in other words, 10 will be 5 and 2 will be 6. I'm going to make jealousy. So what did he do? He took 72 pieces of paper and wrote upon them Zakin. And 2 more pieces he left them plain. And his come and take your piece of paper. Whoever was written on it Zakin, know that he became one of the Zakanim, one of the elders. And if you got a blank paper, you know that he wasn't appointed. And the one in charge would say, you have written on it elder. And if it comes blank, so an elder with the one in charge say to him, there's another one that says elder. If you would have been fit, it would have come into your hands. Okay, that's how they got all the elders. Eldad and Medad were there, umitu atzman, and they said no. I think it seems that they picked out a paper that said zakin on it, and they said no, we are not fit to be one of the elders. So since they made themselves small, they were humble, they merited for 5 things, more than the elders. What were they? The elders were only prophesied the next morning. Like it says, Hashem says to Moshe, tell the nation, what nation does it mean? It means that group of people that was chosen as the elders. But these 2, they said prophecy about what's going to happen at the end of the 40 years. Like it says, by Yishar, in this week's parasha, there's 2 people left in the camp. What were they prophesying? Some say they were prophesying the downfall of Gog. And some say they're prophesying that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die. Yeshua is going to take the Jews into Eretz Yisrael. How do we see that? It says that Yeshua said to Moshe, and Moshe said, that these 2 people are prophesying in the camp. And Yeshua said, and then the young man ran and told to Moshe, who was that? That was his son. The elders didn't go into Eretz Yisrael, but Elder and Medad did. Okay, and then he gives their names. Okay. Now let's get back to, that's the first part of the Medrash, not really our concern right now. Now, in time, if you're going to say as Kainim Shaisin of Wasam Shom Moshe Shema Chaser Moshe Mevuseklum, if you're going to say that the prophecy of the elders came from Moshe, that Moshe lost part of his prophecy, lav, not so. What is it comparable to? L'ner shoyedolek, to a candle that was lit, v'dlikim and a common airs, and many lights were lit from it. V'or delakte lechaser, and the light that was lit didn't miss anything. Af Moshe mishlei lechaser klum. Moshe didn't miss anything from himself. Shneimar, like it says, like Navi Eivmi Yisrael Moshe, that no prophet stood up by the Jewish people like Moshe Rabbeinu. So there we have the Medrash, and the Medrash is very similar to the Rashi, which comes from the Sifri, but it's not exactly the same. Where's the difference is, if you paid attention, you'll remember over here it says Moshe was like a candle upon a candelabrum on a menorah. That doesn't say that in the Medrash. Everyone lights from it. It says everyone lights from it. It brightens, not diminished. And if you look in the Medrash, what does it say? It says like a candle that's lit. Many lights are lit from it. It doesn't miss anything. Okay, so it doesn't mention the candelabra, and it doesn't say a lot of people lit from it. And adds another thing, Moshe doesn't miss anything. And then it brings a pasuk like Moshe. That no prophet stood up by the Jewish people like Moshe Rabbeinu. And when is that pasuk said? It's said in the Varam Lamed Daled. It's all the way at the end of the Torah. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't lose anything out. So here we see that in the Medrash and the Rashi there are a few different differences. And a primary difference is that Rashi says that it's like a light on a menorah. The Medrash doesn't say that. The Medrash brings a pasuk at the end to prove it, like it says there was no other Navi like Moshe. Okay. Now the question is, why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu lose anything from his prophecy? So they say that, okay, it doesn't make sense that Moshe Rabbeinu should lose anything. It's a certain amount of holiness, and Moshe Rabbeinu shares that holiness. What would you think if there's a certain amount of holiness on a person? He shares the holiness with somebody else. Would it lose or would it not lose? You would say, like, well, of course not. Why should it lose? Oh, really? Then why do we have to say, oh, it's like a candle, it doesn't lose? In other words, we would think that if there's a certain amount of spirituality of one person has to share with somebody else, he would lose something. So therefore, Rashi in the Medrash comes along and says, no, but here he didn't lose anything. Now, why would we think that? Why would we think that if you have spirituality on you and you share with somebody else, why would you think that you, oh goodness, why would you think that you would or you wouldn't? Why would you think that you would or you wouldn't lose anything from it? So if you look later on in the Parsha, actually in Parsha Pinchas, we find over there very interesting. It says in Parsha Pinchas that when it came time that Moshe says you have to choose somebody who's going to take my place. So it says here, Hashem said, take Yehoshua. And then it says, V'nasata mahoitcha alav. You should take from that hoid, that glory that's upon you, and you should put it on Yehoshua. Now over there, it's a little different. In our pasuk, what does it say? It says, V'atzalti min haruach. Over there it says, V'nasata. What does nasein mean? Noten, to give. You shall give from that which is upon you. And over here it says, no. It says, V'atzalta. Now over there also it says, V'samachta es yadcha alav. You should put your hands on Yeshua. And then later it says you have two things. You should put your hands on Yeshua, then asat, and you should give mahetcha. So we see over there, and over there, on that pasuk, Rashi says, it's like lighting a candle from a candle. Said the Medrash, it's like pouring from one vessel to another vessel. And by Nasata Mahoitcha, Rashi says a powerful thing. Mei Hoitcha means from your glory, from your shine. So Rashi says, Mei Hoitcha v'lei kol Hoitcha. You should give from your glory, but not all of your glory. So we see over there when it says v'nasata, it means you're going to give. And the Medrash says it means like you're pouring from a vessel to another vessel. If you have a jar of a pitcher of water that has a quart of water in it, and you pour out a pint of water, you're missing a pint of water. So we see that when Moshe gives from him to Yeshua, it's something he's giving something. So we see that there is the possibility that when you share holiness, you lose the holiness. So now, when we think about Moshe Rabbeinu, he didn't miss anything. So now it's not so simple. Like, oh, of course he doesn't miss anything, but not so simple. Furthermore, and by Yeshua, we see both things. It's like a candle from a candle, and it's like pouring from a vessel from a vessel. So the fact that the Medrash says we have to, how do we know that Moshe Rabbeinu is not going to miss anything? Like it says, "V'leikam ach Moshe Rabbeinu he didn't miss anything. Like it says, "V'leikam Navi Eid Yisrael." So from there comes out that you would think that he would be missing something. So therefore, the Medrash says he's not missing anything. But the question is, in our pasuk, it's not the same thing, because our pasuk says it doesn't say v'nasata. So why would we think that he's going to be missing something? Why should we? Why it's like it's like a light from a light, and therefore you're not missing anything. So if the Medrash is trying to say that you would think he would miss something, and therefore have to have a pasuk to prove that he's not, well, why? Vatsalti, a candle from a candle. And if you're going to say the other way around, that vatsalti means you could miss something, why does Rashi not mention anything? He doesn't bring any pasuk. He just says, no, he doesn't miss anything. So therefore, we have to say that since in our pasuk it doesn't say he gave, so there must be something else going on over here that we should think that he would be missing something. If there's a reason for him missing something, what does the pasuk help us? There should be more than that. They should tell us why he's not missing anything. In other words, we're going in so many directions at once. We're saying it on the one hand, it's like a candle from a candle. Then we're saying, wait a second, there's no reason we have to prove anything because he didn't give anything. It's like a candle from a candle. So why do you have to go? And why do you have to bring a pasuk? Why does the Medrash have to bring a pasuk? And if you do have to bring a pasuk, then why? Then it doesn't. It just says it was no prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu. So what? So therefore what? Therefore now if it's like by Yeshua, we're pouring from one vessel to another. So you're missing something over here also. And now comes from another question, where it says, Ach Moshe mishaloi lechosar klum, that Moshe was not missing anything from his own. Where do you know that from? Because it says, V'leikam Navi Eid Yisrael. That pasuk, V'leikam Eid Navi Yisrael, is talking about when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. When did he pass away? At the end of the 40 years. So even if you're going to explain that Moshe Rabbeinu was the same when he passed away, is it possible that when the 70 elders came, he missed something from his prophecy, and only later on he got it back? How do you prove from this pasuk there was no prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu that he didn't lose anything when he shared it with the 70 elders? You think, yeah, he shared with the elders. Later on, he got it back. So to get a little bit of understanding, let's get this straight over here. Normally speaking, when you share something spiritually, it makes sense. Takes away from the spirit of Moshe. Moshe is missing something. And therefore, when the Medrash comes along and tells us that nothing was missing, and Rashi says that, how is it possible? So therefore it says, Lekam Moshe, Lekam Navi Oikem Moshe. There was no prophet like Moshe. That since there was no prophet compared to him, therefore it could have been such a way that it shouldn't be missing. Not to say that the 70, at the end of the 40 years, it proves that Moshe was on the same level as before. And our question was, maybe he's missing something. No. Because Moshe is such a powerful prophet, as we see at the end of his life, that means that affects how he shares his holiness. And the same thing is on Rashi. When Rashi says it's like a candle on a menorah, he's explaining why Moshe Rabbeinu didn't lose anything when he shared his holiness with the 70 elders. Why? Because like a candle on a menorah, which means to say that both the Medrash and Rashi are both saying the same thing. He didn't lose any of his holiness. The question is, why didn't he lose any of the holiness? According to Rashi, and which quotes the Sifri, it's because Moshe Rabbeinu was like a candle on a menorah. And the Medrash says it was because Moshe was so great that he didn't lose anything. Okay, so now we got a clarity here. Now we got to understand what this means, though. Okay, you told me that we've now come to the conclusion, we've seen from Yehoshua that yes, it is possible, and it's likely that if you share from your holiness, you're going to be missing something. By Moshe Rabbeinu, when there's 70 elders, he didn't. Question is why? So we have two answers. Moshe Rabbeinu was an unparalleled prophet. Moshe Rabbeinu at that time was like a candle on a menorah. So to understand that, let's give a little introduction here. When a Rav teaches his students, does he lose anything when he teaches them? So it's very fascinating. If you look in the Rambam wrote a Hakdama LaHaMishnah, Hakdamas HaRambam LaHaMishnah, and it's a very, very important piece of work to learn and to read. And you can read it in English. It's the whole book is the whole introduction of the Mishnah is translated into English. And the reason why it's powerful is because the Rambam there explains in the clearest terms you'll see anywhere what the oral Torah is. Right? Because Hakdama LaMishnah. What's the Mishnah? The Mishnah is a compilation of the oral Torah. So the Rambam starts off by telling us how Moshe Rabbeinu transmitted the Torah that he heard from Hashem. How he would talk to Aaron, then he talked to Aaron and his sons, and Aaron and his sons and the elders, and Aaron and his son and the whole of the Jews. Then Moshe Rabbeinu would leave after repeating it 4 times, and then Aaron repeated, then Aaron leaving, the children leave. Then the Rambam goes into a very, very easy to read, but very clear explanation of what the oral Torah is, and he goes on to a little bit of a tangent and talks about how prophecy plays a part in transmitting the oral Torah, and explains what the oral Torah is. How there's halach l'Moshe Sinai, things that Hashem told to Moshe to write in the Torah, and then orally told Moshe what it is. I'll give you one example. A sukkah. What is a sukkah? You should make sukkahs. The Torah is make a sukkah. What does make a sukkah mean? Okay, sukkah is schach. How many walls are supposed to have? Hashem told that orally to Moshe Rabbeinu. There's no place in the Torah you'll be able to prove that it's that way. Certain things you'll find the smach, saimach, like talks about shiurim, amounts. You say everybody knows there's an amount called a kazayas. Then there's certain things that are like a barley. Where do you learn that from? From the 7 kinds that Israel's praised for. The 7 species that Israel's praised for is not talking about the size that you have to eat matzah on Pesach. So where is the shear? Where does the amount of a kazayas come from? Halach l'Moshe Sinai. There's a pasuk that lists all these different shiurim, that there's the size of a date for if you're eating Yom Kippur, the size of a kazayas for matzah. That's a pasuk that's the 7 kinds of Israel. It's not talking about doing mitzvahs. So all it is, it's a smach. He said, if you want to see where in the Torah these amounts are mentioned, there you have it. That's the oral Torah. Then he goes on and explains how it goes, how eventually Rabbi Yehuda Nasi decided to write the Mishnah. And he writes, and he says the Mishnah was very clear. Davar Kotzer v'Kailu and Yanam, very brief, that includes many things. And everything was clear, sharp to the mind. So the Mishnah that was written in the time to the Mishnah was very clear to the people who had it. But then when it came later on, they had to write the Tosefta and the Baraisa to clarify it. So what we're saying over there is that when you have the teacher has a concept in his mind, and then he explains it to other people. So he explains the concept. So the Gemara explains the Mishnah. What is the Gemara? Is the Gemara detracting from the Mishnah? It's taking the Mishnah and spreading it out. So someone on a higher level can read the Mishnah, know exactly what the Gemara means. You come to the next generation, the Gemara has to state it clearly. But it's not going away from the content itself. Then it comes the next thing. It comes a point where the student doesn't understand. You have to give him an example. For example, a guy is walking in the street, he meets his friend who's riding a bicycle. All of a sudden, we're talking about a bicycle, we're in the middle of talking about a Mishnah that has nothing to do with it. You're giving me an example that's leaving the content of the discussion, and you're trying to give him a parable in his life. So the teacher then is going away from his clear understanding of it and has to find something in the world that fits the mind of the child, the mind of the student. So he's leaving the content of the teaching. And so what that does is it takes the teaching and brings it into a different realm. It also affects the teacher. The teacher now is, what in the teacher's mind, he's talking about a baseball game. He's talking about a guy riding a bicycle, whatever the example is. He's no longer talking about the halacha or the pasuk in Chumash or halacha in the Mishnah or the piece of Gemara. So you have two ways here. You have one way where you're sticking to the idea, you're just explaining it in terms that the person can understand. Then there's something else. And when you're giving an example, you're leaving the pure concept and you're enclosing it in something else completely. And that affects both the teacher and the student. And this, we could also understand something else, a fascinating thing. The Zohar says, let me see, I got the Zohar here for you. I had this all prepared, but this computer stuff, it's just not happening. I need an official assistant. I'm going to use forever. Okay. David HaMelech was born, he was a Nephil. You know what that means? That David HaMelech was born, he had no life. So what happened was, when they found out that David HaMelech was not going to have any life, so they contributed to his life. Who contributed to his life? So the pasuk says, the pasuk in Tehillim, Chaim Shol Mimcha Nasat Eloi Eirich Yamim Eilam Vayim. Life devoured from you, you gave to him long days and life forever. Chaim Shol Mimcha, life devoured from you, Da David Malka. This is David HaMelech. Da Kadbara Kutshabrichu Ginsa De'edna Atavan Nishmas David Malka. When Hashem created Gan Eden, he put the neshama of David HaMelech there. And he saw there has no life. He had no year. Keeping the bara Adam Rishon Amar Havadi Kiyume Madam Kadma Havashim Shams Kaim Gamak. So when Adam Rishon was created, it took 70 years from David HaMelech, from Adam Rishon gave it to David HaMelech. That's why Adam Rishon was supposed to live 1,000 years, lived 930 years. Okay. Then came the patriarchs, and they all gave him life. Avram left him life. Yaakov left him life. Yosef left him life. Yitzchak did not leave him any life. Why? Because David, Malcolm, Mesir Tedok Asa. David and Yitzchak come in the same place. We'll get to that in a second. So Avram left him life, how many years? 5 years. Because he was supposed to live 180 years. And he lived only 175 years. So he's missing 5 years, so he gave it to David Melech. Yaakov was supposed to live like the years of Abraham. How many years is Abraham? 175. And he only lived 147. So you have left over 28 years. So Abraham and Yaakov together gave him 33 years. Yosef, that lived 120 to 110 years, he was supposed to live as long as his father, 147 years. So he's missing his life 37 years. So altogether you have now 7 years. 33 and 37 make 70. Okay. You're going to ask Yitzchak, why didn't he live any life? Begin the because Yitzchak comes from a place of darkness, and David Amel comes from a place of darkness. So therefore, there's no life there. So there's a mimer from the Tzemach Tzedek called Mimer Minyan Melech. It's a discussion about the mitzvah of appointing a king. And in there, the Tzemach Tzedek discusses this subject. And he says, David, Yitzchak comes, what do you mean from a place of darkness? He comes from a place of gvura, of strength, of judgment. And since David HaMelech is a king, and a king has to judge, so he doesn't have to get, it makes no sense for him to get any life. He won't get any life. He already had, the concept of gvura is inherent to his neshama, so he can't get any extra energy from Yitzchak. So therefore, Yitzchak doesn't give it to him. Okay. Why are we getting to this whole question? It's a very fascinating thing. Why are we talking about this? You know, we're talking about this because they lost life. They gave years of their life and they lost years of life. So here we see when a person is giving away something, he misses something. So the question is, why did Adam Rishon, why did the Avis, why did they lose from their life? The answer is because since the Avis were the difference, like just a little bit of chassidus, you got to hold it, you got to dig in. David HaMelech, Malchus, in the 10th Sfirot, which Sfira is Malchus? The last Sfira. The Avis were from a higher level. The Avis were from Atzilus. David HaMelech came down into this world, into the world of Bri Yitzir Asi, the lower worlds. Malchus goes down into the lower worlds. So since they're taken from Atzilus, from that higher spiritual world, and they have to transfer down into the physical, the three lower worlds, so therefore it leaves, so to speak, Atzilus and comes down. How does that compare to an example of a candle? It's very simple. If you take a candle and you want its light to, you light a candle, the light spreads. What happens if you want the candle to bring light to a place that's far away? So then what you have to do is you have to move the candle. If the candle's sitting in point A and point B is too far away, the light won't reach there, you have to move the candle. So therefore, if you want to give life to David HaMelech, whose idea of being a king in the lower worlds affecting Malchus, affecting the actual people that live in this world, so Aaron, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Adam Rishon, have to give away from their years out of Atzilus and has to descend down to Malchus. And the same thing is also when Moshe Rabbeinu gives his years to Yehoshua. It's Nesina. He's giving it. It's not like candle lighting from a candle. Why not? Because we know that Yehoshua compared to Moshe Rabbeinu was like what? Like the moon compared to the sun. And so therefore, to be able to take from the light of the sun of Moshe Rabbeinu, it has to be removed, so to speak, from the sun and be given up to the moon. And therefore, when it comes to the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu had to give life, give from his holiness to the 70 elders, so what are we going to think now? That even though it says Vatsaltim in Ruach, it doesn't say he gave in this scene of Nasan, it doesn't say he gave, but nonetheless, when you compare Moshe Rabbeinu to the 70 elders, even though it's Vatsalti, I increased your light and it flows down to them, it's still leaving Moshe Rabbeinu. And so the word Vanasati is not there, but the concept is there. It's a distant thing. So now the question is, so why Taka didn't it miss? Why wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu missing anything? Now we've explained it makes sense that it should be missing from Moshe Rabbeinu. The same way Adam Rishon and Avram, Yaakov, and Yosef lost their years. Moshe Rabbeinu lost his some of his holiness when he gave it away to Yeshua. Why over here didn't it affect him when it came to the 70 elders? So you can explain it in two ways. Number one is because Moshe Rabbeinu then was in a lower level, such a level that he was now reached to the point of of the elders, and therefore he wasn't coming from such a high place, coming from a place that's relative to them. So therefore, since he's on their level, he's not missing anything. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that because Moshe Rabbeinu was so great, that he was able to, because remember, you can move the candle from one place to the other place if you have to transport the light. There's something else you can do. You can increase the light of the candle where it is to the point that it reaches to a further direction, a further distance. So the first way of looking at it is that Moshe Rabbeinu fell down. And since he was on a lower level at that point, so therefore he shared the light with them. He was on their level. So he didn't miss anything because he wasn't such a high level that he had to miss anything. It wasn't a descent for him. Like we talked about Adam Rishon coming from Atzilus down to the lower worlds. He was on their level. Or the other thing to say is he was so great that he was able to reach even there. And that's the difference between the Medrash and Rashi. According to Rashi, he came down to his level. Moshe Rabbeinu was on their level. According to the Medrash, no, he was on a much so high that it could reach even there. Where do we see this in Rashi? So we see very, very simply, we see that in the pasuk it says, when the Jews made the golden calf, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu is on the mountain, he doesn't know what's going on. Hashem says, Lech reid, go down. So why does he have to go down? So Rashi says something. He says, Chlum nasati lecha, like nasati lecha gedula elu b'shvil Yisrael. I only gave you greatness because of the Jewish people. If they descend, you descend with them. And we find the same thing also in our parsha, where Moshe Rabbeinu says, he uses an expression and he says, let me see if I can find it quickly. Right here. Moshe Rabbeinu is complaining to Hashem, right? I can't do it alone. And if you're going to do this, please kill me. Here we go. What is at? What is saying at? Not saying ata. At is feminine. Moshe became very weak, like a female. When Hashem told the punishment to us that it's going in the future is going to bring upon them. Amar Lefanov, he said, kill me first. So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, if you're going to do that to the Jewish people, take my life before that. So why does he use the feminine to show that he's on a lower level, on the level of the Bnei Yisrael? And according to Chassidus, this is not an insult to women, it's telling you a fact. Because Malchus is feminine, right? If you anybody who here who learned the wedding mimer, no, there's Zon Malchus, there's a seven first Midas, the 6 first Midas, which is Chesed, Gvura, Tveres, all those kindness and severity and all these things. And Malchus is the last one, and Malchus is the one that receives and then is able to implement into the world. Malchus is the channel that reaches down into actuality, into action, into speech. And so therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu was now going down to the level of the Jews. So Rashi says, Tasha Kleichi, his strength became like Nekeva, like the concept of Nekeva, which is Malchus, which is David HaMelech, which is going down into the world. And so according to Rashi, why was Moshe Rabbeinu able to share of his life with the 70 elders? Because he descended, they dragged him down. They brought him down to his level. And he said, now I'm your level. Okay, we can make 70 elders. And therefore Rashi says, at that time, going back to our Rashi, what does it say? What was Moshe like at that moment? At that moment, he was like a candle that's on the menorah. Not a candle that's fun. It's sitting there on the menorah on the table, which means that it's descended down. What's the menorah? Malchus. Again, coming down. Everybody takes light from it. Not the 70 elders. All the Bnei Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu has now come down to their level. Through their complaining, through their rebelling against Hashem, they brought Moshe down into the pit with them. He's like the menorah sitting on the table right next to you. And everybody's taking light for him. And nonetheless, and that's why his light's not missing anything, because they diminished his level to the point that he's now sharing it with them. Comes along the Medrash and says, no, Moshe did not come down to that point. But what happened? There was never a prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was on such a high level throughout his life. So therefore, he was able, when the Jews went really low, Moshe Rabbeinu went even higher and higher. And therefore, he's even in that lowest level, he was able to relate to them. He was able to share from his life. And that's why the Medrash says, because the Medrash is not the simple meaning of the pasuk, is that Moshe Rabbeinu Tasha Kaicha, he became weak. He became on a lower level. Comes along the Medrash, which is the Pnimius Torah, which is like the side of Torah. The Medrash is telling you, no. It's not common areas that Af Moshe he didn't miss anything. He didn't descend one iota. What happened? He increased his light to the point that he was able to relate to the Jews on their lowest level. There was never a prophet like that by the Jewish people. Oh golly, where did I go? Oh crap. Oh Hashem. Where am I? It's my Okay, guys. I out of my excitement, I disappeared off the screen. But I'm pretty much, that was the end. I ended the last word, and I was trying to get back to you, and well, here I am. Anybody have any comments, questions?
Yeah.
What?
We can hear you and we can see you. We just lost this.
I know. I disappeared off the screen for a while because I wanted to get out of the share mode, and I just clicked the wrong thing. So, but I'm done. So now, anybody have any comments? Questions? Noam, who are you?
Who am I? I'm a fellow Jew. I'm out in Arizona right now, interested in potentially going to yeshiva sometime next year. So joining some of these online classes, getting a little taste of what it's like.
Okay, I'm in Boston. I'm a guest here in the Minot Yeshiva.
Okay.
The guys that are there are much nicer.
Okay.
Brady,
Yes.
Shalom Aleichem.
Jacob.
Jacob. Oh, it says Brady at the
Yes.
Jacob Brady. Where are you?
I'm near New York City.
Where?
Oh yeah, I guess that's White Plains.
Oh, White Plains.
Yeah.
Why do you say New York? Being in New York City is not to be proud of.
I know.
I'm outside New York, so you're outside New York, so you're okay. Those people live in New York City, like, ugh.
I'm moving there soon, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll be
I'm
one of them.
Why are you moving there?
Starting a job at NYU.
Oh, nice. Okay, who else? Sam is there. Sam, introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Sam Hans, and I actually realized right now that Dr. Baruchim and I have met before. So I was basically, I have his number as well. I'm a medical student at Boston University, and I did a research here in New York, and I went for Mincha one day to one of the Sephardic shul on the Upper East Side, and I had met him and we'd exchanged numbers. Unfortunately, I was never able to shadow. I got very busy and things built up, and I'm starting my third year, and it's amazing how on a whim I actually came to this shiur, and I see somebody who I've ever connected with months and months ago, and it's very interesting.
That's what we're doing. Bringing Jews. The Torah brings the Jews together.
Yeah, literally.
Good to see you.
So what we get, just to follow up a little bit, when you think about this, was what I shared with you was a talk from the Rebbe. First of all, I think it's just it's just amazing how we picked up on so many little side things, and and it leads you to like this whole idea of the 70 years that they gave to David HaMelech, the whole idea of I don't know if you guys, the introduction to Mishnah Torah, if you never read it, you really should pick it up, because it's an easy read, and it's so fundamental to understanding when people, what is the oral Torah? What is it? What is it? It's like, oh, the Mishnah, the Gemara. No. What exactly is it? It's very, very, very powerful, very fundamental, and interesting to read. But here also we get an understanding of what is a Moshe Rabbeinu. We talk about a leader of the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu was the Reish B'nai Yisrael. He was the head of the Jewish people. He's the one that brought the Torah to the Jews. To be able to understand how he relates to them, and you see over here in 2 points. And say, well, which one is right? Did the Moshe Rabbeinu come down to the level of the Jews, or was Moshe Rabbeinu so high that it didn't even affect him when his light had to reach down way below him? And I think they're both true. One is Pshat, and one is Drush, one is Seid. On a Pshat level, simply speaking, if you look in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe gives an example there. Is when a person does an Aveira, he says, it's like you take the head of the king and you put it into an outhouse with you. You dump it into like the dirtiest place possible. The concept of when a person has a neshama, where is he taking the neshama? Where is he bringing it? He's burying it in a place of absolute unholiness. So the same goes also, Moshe Rabbeinu is one with Hashem. There's no closer person that gets than Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what we call the head. So the Jews that are connected to him, he has to go where they are. So if you're going to be that low, Moshe Rabbeinu comes after you, like the famous Medrash, when before Moshe Rabbeinu was chosen, he went looking after the sheep that strayed away. So Moshe Rabbeinu, if the sheep is running away into some dark corner, Moshe Rabbeinu goes there. So you have to think to yourself: do I want to schlep Moshe Rabbeinu with me? I'm just saying, for a chassid of the Rebbe. He wasn't like, a chassid, wherever the Rebbe always told the shluchim, wherever you go, I'm going with you. Like, wow, it's, when the Rebbe would send shluchim to the far-flung places in the world. I'm like, the Rebbe says, du gehst nicht allein. Wo du gehst, gehe ich mit dir. You're not going alone. Wherever you go, I'm going with you. That was very encouraging. We're talking about shluchim that went out 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, to places where, there was no communication, there was nothing Jewish. And to know that the Rebbe said, I'm going there, and it was real struggle. I'm going there with you. It's beautiful, right? But then on the other hand, you're the shliach of the Rebbe. Where you are, the Rebbe is there with you. So if you're going to do something that isn't 100%, The Rebbe's standing right next to you. Do you want to schlep the Rebbe with you there? On the one hand. On the other hand, we have so many stories of people who are like in the dark and deepest places, and the Rebbe pulls them out. There's a story with one of the Rabbeim, not our Rebbe, one of the previous Rabbeim. He was having private audiences with people. And at some point, he told this guy, "Stop! I can't take any more people. I need my own time." Okay. He says, it's an hour, 2 hours, and he hears the Rebbe is crying and davening. You know what's going on? So after a while, he started again. He said to the Rebbe, "What happened?" He said, "When people come in and ask me a question, and I have to give them advice, I have to answer them, I have to find within myself something that's similar to it, or else I can't relate to them. The person that came and asked me a question about something, it was so horrific. I said, I can't relate to it. I have no connection to that. Such a horrible thing. I have no connection to it. It doesn't exist in the realm of my world." So I was sitting and davening, crying to Hashem, how is it possible that I should have a connection to it? And he said, then they found in some very moderate way something that's similar to that, but light years away from it, I found it myself. What does that mean? That means that that Moshe Rabbeinu has to come and has to connect to the Jews where they are. Wherever you are, I'm going to be there. I'm going to reach down to you and I'm going to help you out. And so from a simple point of view, you're dragging Moshe Rabbeinu down into this very nasty place. On the other hand, in reality, on a deeper level, Moshe Rabbeinu is so great that even over there he can reach down. So you have a balance between these two things. And the same, tzaddikim daimon lebayim, tzaddikim are comparative to Hashem. Hashem is the same thing too. You think about it. You have a neshama, a godly soul. Wherever you go, Hashem will be with you. Wherever you go, it never leaves you. But then on the other hand, is that where you want to take your neshama? Is that where you have such a powerful, holy soul? You want to bring it into that place? Is that where it belongs? On the other hand, don't worry. It'll be there with you as well. And that's why, so when you're looking at yourself, you have to say, well, I don't want to torment my soul and bring it to such a low place. When we look at another Jew, we say, like, I'm so low. So no, Hashem is with that Jew in that place too. Never give up on another Jew.
Amen.
Yes.
Rabbi, when we say that David HaMelech got 70 from Adam and then 70 from the combination of the other of Abraham, Yaakov, and Yosef, is that two halves of the soul similar to like what Yitzchak at the Akedah is missing half of? One of the ideas is he's missing half of his soul. When I read
the Zohar and I looked in the Maimer, I didn't look in. The question came to my mind also, and I was hoping nobody would ask it. So basically, I hate you. But no, it's a good question. Like, why do you have to? But it could be. If I remember correctly, that there's different levels of life force that came to him. If I find exactly the wording for it, I'll get you. Yeah. But as I was reading, so what is he? If you got from the Adam Rishon, I get it from them also. But I believe in that Maimer that the Rebbe talked about. The Tzemach Tzedek discusses that also. The different levels of soul they got from him. Okay.
If I could make actually a suggestion, Rambam wrote a letter to the Jewish community in Yemen. It's called the Epistle to Yemen.
Yeah.
And I mean, he doesn't hold back punches in this letter. So it's a kind of rated R letter in the sense that he's not censoring himself in any way, because back then, if you were a Jew, you had to be careful what you were writing in certain circles or what you were saying out loud in certain circles. And this was on the heels of a big persecution of the Yemenite Jewish community. And it's interesting, the historicity of the letter and also the contents of the letter. And I think it's very amazing how it contextualizes the chaos that seemed to have surrounded the Jewish community of Yemen. And like Rambam, I mean, obviously he wears so many hats: philosopher, theologian, rabbi, moral leader, physician. But I think a historian and a historical and you had a very analytic view of history and how it dovetails with Nevuah and some of the scriptures. So I think it's an interesting thing to read, especially now.
Okay. All right, boys. Rock on. Have a good night. Lots of success.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.